Hey, and welcome back. Today we're going to be working on a snowblower. This video might be helpful even if you're not working on a snowblower. Maybe you got an old tiller or an old go-kart. You know, these engines were used on everything. So, this is an old Montgomery Ward. I'll look it up here in a second to see what the date is. And it's a single stage, if you can believe that. So that metal auger just spins 1,000 miles an hour, I'm guessing. And it throws the snow up through there. I've had a couple of these old ones that have these metal augers that are single stages, and they're monsters. You know, if you can get them set up right with the skid shoes, and that scraper bar still has some meat on it on the bottom, these will throw snow pretty good. Heavy or wet, it doesn't matter, but you know, they are dangerous. That's going 1,000 miles an hour. You get something caught up in there, it's gonna be shredded by the time it comes out. So again, just standard 5-horse Briggs engine. Let's see what year it is. So there's date codes here. Let's see. So there's the model number. And then the extended piece so you can really narrow in on the parts. And then the first two digits of this last code tells you the year. So 1979 was when this one was made. So I picked it up. Didn't cost much. It was free, actually. So hard to say no to that. But you know, these aren't super desirable anymore. People don't really feel like spending a whole lot of money, even if this is in super good working condition. You know, it's not going to be worth a whole lot. However, this motor can be thrown on a whole bunch of things. These 5-horse Briggs and Strattons were pretty legendary in their day. They used them for a very long time until the EPA got involved and, you know, pollution and stuff kicked in, and these didn't really make the cut. But they were pretty dependable. They didn't need much, especially if you stored them empty, you know, as far as gas is concerned. If it didn't have a whole lot of gas in it, then that was certainly a plus. Let's see, has it got gas in there? Yes, it does. Bummer. And it stinks. So we'll try to drain that out, but kind of the first things I like to typically do with these is just troubleshoot a little bit. I've tried to start it, it doesn't start. But we'll get some carb spray out. I'll take some of these pieces off. For this cover to come off of this carburetor, you've got to take these head bolts out. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but we'll do that just to make sure that we're not chasing ghosts here. I like to always check to see if it'll get if it's got spark. Sometimes when these things sit around too long, those points will get dirty and it won't have any spark, so you got to clean them up, or you can just convert it to electronic ignition with a newer coil, and then you don't have to worry about the points at all. But let's go ahead, we'll try to start it here quick. Let me go ahead and take this cover off and we'll get going. All right, so the head bolts, if I'm not mistaken, are 1/2 inch. That one looks like somebody just replaced it with whatever they had. And that one doesn't want to come off. So sometimes these get kind of cranky and you got to give them a little bit more pressure to pop them off. Let me grab a different socket wrench and we'll try to get that last one out. So I typically like to go back and forth. Breaking a bolt off inside of this head is something I do not want to do. So, ooh, there, I got it to turn. So we got it to go back, but I'm going to tighten it again. And back it off, just real slow. And then tighten it. Just try to work the threads as much as you can. Because the last thing you want to do, again, is just break this off inside. But I think we got it. Kind of I can see why they did it this way, but it's kind of a silly design, really. Having to take the head bolts off just to get a fairing off seems kind of ridiculous. Let's see, is this connected on anything? Yeah, it must be. There's a screw up here. It's just a flat blade. Screw that comes off the top. Right there. That screws it down to the carburetor. So there you go. A lot of times with these carburetors, if you're spending the time to work on them, there's a diaphragm in here that needs to be replaced. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. It's even more of a pain in the butt to get this thing off because you have to loosen. There's a screw underneath, or a bolt, excuse me, and another one on the top. And as you can see, there's not really a good way to get a socket wrench in there. You kind of have to monkey around getting it from the side, just a little, you know, eighth of a turn at a time. You can sneak in there from this angle. See if I can get that. And, you know, weasel a long screwdriver down in there to get it most of the way, but then when it comes to getting it tight or loosening it up right at the beginning, you gotta get an open-ended screwdriver to do it. So I'm gonna put this back on here so I don't lose it. Don't lose that washer down in there. So, choke. So I'm gonna put these head bolts back in just real quick. We'll torque these down. I'll have to look up the spec on it because I don't remember. It doesn't have to be exact. I've done a lot of these, so for the most part, I go by feel. I'm sure a lot of people have opinions on not loosening them all and then torquing it down again. But I'm not going to do that because I'll probably end up taking the head off anyways at some point just to clean the carbon out. Make sure the valve clearance is good and all that. Just going for good and tight. Too tight and you'll snap these off. So just tight. I'll look up the specs and give that to you later. All right, so carb cleaner, cheap stuff from Walmart. I don't care. It does the same job that everything else does. But you want to make sure you got enough in there. Then we'll give her a rip, see what she does. Always want to make sure that you've got all your kill wires and everything off. So, you know, if you have this all the way back, or the key's not turned on, or something silly, you know, you might have issues there. No, this one doesn't even have the wires connected to it anymore, so it must just be that stop. All right, couple more. Do it with the choke off. All that carb spray is gone. All right, so I'm guessing no spark. It didn't even pop. Let me grab a spark tester and we'll see if that shows anything. Sweet. So that's what it is. So there's a little light bulb in here. You connect this side to there. Make sure this isn't touching any ground. Then you plug that in to the coil. And then we're really just looking to see if that light has any flash to it whatsoever. So again, make sure there's no kill on there, and let's give it a couple pulls. Nothing. Nothing. Still nothing. Okay, so there you go. This thing's problem, at least that we can tell right now, is that it doesn't have spark. And it doesn't look like it's got the right plug in it either. But in some regard, it doesn't matter, you know. If it has spark, even the wrong plug would light. So here's what we'll do. There's a bolt here, one on the side, down here at the bottom, right there, and another one that's kind of tricky right there. If I'm not mistaken, it should be, yep, right there. So we got to buzz those three off so that we can get in here. And I'll show you the tool that I use to get that flywheel off. So let's do that next. All right, so 7/16 socket. There's one. Now some of these will have a 3/8 in the top. The biggest point of contention, really, in my opinion, is getting these bolts back on without stripping them. Everybody seems to struggle with that part. So then it's just a matter of wiggling and off it comes. So really pretty tighty as far as these things go. You can spray a little bit of something down in here if you want to help this kind of slide along easy. But this one pulls real nice, so we're just going to leave it. So then the next thing we've got in our way, if you follow what's going on in here, so there's a leaf right there. But no mice have been in here, so that's good. But how you can check to see if this has points or not, there should be a big lump right here that goes clear across, and that'll show you that it's got that it doesn't have points. It's basically like a solid state, or what do they call that, electronic coil. So the points themselves, if you look back here on this motor, see how it's got that wire coming out of the back of this thing, and then it goes down behind the flywheel. Well, that's where we got to go to get it. So there's a special tool. I have one to get this off. But, you know, I know people before have gotten a screwdriver and they hold this still and they pop it to try to get it to come loose. I bought the tool. I do enough of these that it was just worth it for me to have that. So I'll grab that tool and we'll buzz that thing off and I'll show you what's underneath. And here you go. It's kind of goofy looking, isn't it? But this goes right over the top. This thing's called a starter clutch. So it goes right over the top of that. And then you just hold it still and back it out. Okay. So there's that. Now, one thing that's super important is that no matter how, even if this looks clean, this shaft right here, let me show you a closer look. See, it looks clean, and it's kind of oily, but it's a little sticky out here. If you don't clean that off good, I use carb cleaner on it to get it nice and polished up so there's nothing there. If you don't get that nice and clean, this thing will squeal, or it'll start kicking the rope out after you get it started, and boy is it a pain. One thing I'm noticing here too, and maybe you already have, so this is a cupped washer that goes on. So the cup, I don't know, maybe it's hard to pick up, but it kind of makes a shape like that. This is on backwards. The cup is supposed to go in like that. So when you tighten it down and you put pressure on it, it's almost like it has spring pressure backwards when you put the cup in. So someone's been in here at one point or another, which maybe they were chasing the same thing we are. But either which way, we're getting ready to find out, I guess. Hopefully the points in the condenser aren't bad. A lot of times you just have to clean them. If they are bad, I typically don't fix it. I just put a new coil on it. Even if this one's good, I just put electronic ignition, and then you're done. The drawback to doing that, though, is if you put an electronic ignition on this, the RPM that you have to spin the motor to get it to start is faster, so you've got to have a better pull. Whereas if we can get this points and condenser to work, I mean, you barely have to rotate this thing around, and you know, just with your hand you could push it hard enough to get it to light, so you don't have to have near the RPM with these old school points and condenser setups as you would with an electronic ignition. So let's go ahead and we'll try to bump this flywheel off. I'm going to get a knockoff tool. I've got a brass fitting deal that goes over that, and then I'm just going to get a crowbar and we'll pop it off. All right, so here is my knockoff tool. If you can see down in there. Okay, I guess it's kind of hard because the lighting's not the best, but there's a piece of brass in here. And the whole point is of putting this over the top is if you whack this thing with a hammer, you're going to mushroom the outside of that crank that comes out, and then you're not going to be able to get it back on. Oh, ha! Well, I guess. Anyhow, I guess to show you how I would have done it had this not already been loose, is you get back here, make sure you're prying on part of the case. You don't have to go crazy, just good pressure. And then with this knockoff tool, you put that on the end, and then you're prying on this. You know, make sure you're not hitting wires or linkage or anything else, just right off the motor. Not gonna lie, the more I look at this wire situation coming in here, the more I don't like it. But we'll go ahead and clean it anyway. So it's just a used up file. It's not super sharp, but it is very flat. And you just want to work it. File push down a little bit on the point side, you know, pushing up and holding it down. Then you kind of pull it down and file on the top of this condenser side. And that's how you get them cleaned up. So, I'm not going to lie, it just seems like somebody was in here and maybe they tried messing with it and it didn't work, so they just gave up. Also, something to note, this should be gapped at 20 thousandths. Typically, it'll tell you that on this. It'll have the reading on it somewhere. This one doesn't say what it is, unfortunately, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. You want this hump to go right over that guy. And then we'll just put it, we'll just kind of do the reverse order. Put everything back on. And then we'll see if we got spark back. If we did, great. If we didn't, then basically how you convert it is you snip these two wires off and you run the kill wire from this linkage down here up to the coil, and you just put an electronic coil in there, and then all of this down here doesn't matter. You just leave it all right where it's at. Don't take it out, just leave it in there. And it'll be fine. So again, we want to make sure that this is clean before we put this clutch back on here. I like to use carb spray because that gets varnish and all the nasty gooey stuff off. But a light oil, I think, is what it calls for to get it back on there. The cool thing with Briggs is that their timing was built in. So you've got this flywheel key that sits in here. You don't have to push it all the way back. You just push it so that it's sitting flat, and then you line this up with that. Or you can go the other way around. You slide this guy on there, get it to where it looks like it's lined up, and push the key in. Oh, gotta have it facing the right way. It's only gonna go in there one way, so you can't put it the wrong direction, but that'll get you where you need to go. And then we need that cupped washer. Again, the cup, you know, if this is what it looks like, the cup goes like that to push down on it. And then with these, you just put it on there. This needs to be tight. That's good enough. Sorry about your ears. And then you can go through and you can put the whole thing back together. What I like to do since I have the tool, you want to make sure obviously you're spinning it the right way. But what I like to do is get a drill, put it on a slow spin, make sure this is obviously in. Let's give it a squirt. Healthy dose. Pull that choke out. And let's see if it'll start now. Okay, nothing. I'll spin it maybe a little bit faster. That should be enough though. Not a drop. It is. Okay. Ooh. She's on there tight. There we go. Pretty sooty. So you can clean that off a little bit. Wire brush or do whatever, just knock some of the corrosion off. And what we could do is we could just, well, there's a couple things. We can do this, plug it back in, and clip this off to a ground or hold it to ground like that. And we can see if we got any spark. It's kind of sitting on an angle, so I'm wondering if, the airflow through this should have been enough to draw it in, but maybe it leaked out before I could do it. So let's see if it's got any spark. Not a lick. I'll go grab another plug since this isn't the right one anyways. and let's see if it's that. All right, so this is a brand new plug. It's not the right one either, but we're just trying to see if we can get it to show us it's got some life. So here we go. Ready? Nope, nothing. Oh, there it goes. You see it? Let's try it again. Well, it did it, I promise. Maybe I'm just not holding it good enough on there. You don't like to get shocked by these. These hurt. So I'm being kind of a wimp. Well, I saw it spark. Maybe we try this spark tester. We'll ground it out. I'll give it a shot. Straight into the chamber. Put this plug back on. The new one, that is. Get it tight. Don't let this hit the ground or it won't show you what you're looking for. Let's see. There, see? How about that? So that's pretty cool. Maybe that's all it was. Boy, could we be that lucky. I'm going to get some light oil and spray it in here. You really don't want much of anything, to be honest. Because eventually it's just going to get gunked up, right? So you don't want to do that. But let's go ahead and put this all on, and then I'll take you outside and we'll see if it'll throw some snow. We got some snow unexpectedly, go figure. And I'm sure we've got something that we can do. So give me a second, I'll button this back up. Again, just the 3 bolts, 7/16 goes right over the top. And then we'll see what it can do in the snow. Now there's this plate here, and they have to be on here just a certain way. Sometimes this can be stubborn. You just kind of rock it back and forth until it's happy. But I'll show you these little plates I was talking about. There. So what you're looking for is to make sure that this tucks in here, and this is where the starter would have gone, and it covers that, sorry, right here, it covers that little hole. So let me grab these. I have the best luck by just getting these little bolts started. Before you tighten any of them down, just get them started by hand, and then you won't have to worry about stripping them out like you do if you just got on it with a screw gun or a socket wrench or something crazy. But, you know, you put a couple of these in and it'll help you line them up. One trick I like to use too is you twist it backwards once you find the hole that it goes in. You twist it backwards. I'll start with the other side. Until you feel the threads bump. There we go. There. But you'll feel the threads start over, and right when you feel it rolled backwards and hit that hump, then you know that the threads are lined up and you can try to go forwards then. And then that's one of the best ways I've used to not get things cross-threaded. All right, I got that started a little bit. So for the sake of time, I'm gonna speed this up with my screw gun. Don't go crazy. I've got this impact is like an extension of my arm. I've used it so much. That I'm very comfortable with doing stuff like this. But if it's not something you're used to, again, you snap bolts off inside of this thing and it's going to be a bummer. I'm just going to leave this off for now. You want to put this on so that it helps, you know, it'll send warm air in here, but then also it shields it from snow hitting it. Since this has a little bit of heat, I don't want to pull these back off until it's cooled down because I don't want it to warp. So give me a second, I'll push this outside and let's try it out. All right, I brought it outside, try to throw some snow, but now it doesn't want to start. So a lot of times, see that little plate with the 4 screws holding it? A lot of times the diaphragm in there is hard. So I'm going to take that out and I'll get some carb cleaner and blow it through the passages. Also, you really don't have to adjust this screw, but you can get a socket, a deep well, back this out and clean out the jet. And then we'll see if that helps. All right, I'll do my best to show you this. It's going to be kind of hard not to get in the way, but this is what we're after. Is this guy right here. It's got 2 little flaps, and that's how it meters and how it pumps fuel into this thing. Let me grab a longer screwdriver. I'm going to do my best to show you this without getting in the way. You need kind of a long, thin screwdriver. This is what we're after. So what it does is these pulse back and forth based on the vacuum created by the engine. And what has happened is over time, more than likely anyways, that has gotten very hard, dried out. And so it's incredibly hard to start when that happens. So there's that. It's a lot easier to do this job when you have the carburetor completely off of it. So this is going to be kind of a challenge, but magnetic screwdriver tip is always very helpful. Let's see here. And there's going to be a little spring and a spring cover. In a perfect world where this, you know, had been pulled off and this was a newer diaphragm in here, it would already be popping off of there. But I'm thinking we're going to have to give it a little bit of a love tap. Yeah, it's on there pretty good. Gotta be careful what you're prying on. A lot of this is pretty delicate stuff. Now, there was gas in there, so that's good. So maybe it was pumping. This don't look that bad. So maybe these ports, yeah, this diaphragm looks new. So somebody did us a favor there. Now it's clearly been a while since they did it. But what we're going to do here is gonna get some carb cleaner. We're gonna blow it. I'm gonna take this gas cap off so we can get a good breath. But so you put this right in there. Okay, so now those passages are clean. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and put this thing back on. Another thing you can do, so a few little passages in here that you want to make sure open. But sometimes these don't seal all the way, and you got to get something real flat, piece of sandpaper, and kind of file it until it gets to the point where it's in good shape. But, I mean, it's kind of curling because I used that carb cleaner on it, but it's pretty new. I don't want to use a new one just to replace one that's already new. So just make sure that it stays where it needs to be. And before I go to start this again, I'm going to siphon out the gas. Because the last thing you want to do is verify that the carburetor's clean and that this diaphragm's in good shape. And then have it, and then just be pumping sediment and all the grossness out of that tank with bad gas. You know, I never really did get to talk to the guy much about what the deal was with it, other than it wouldn't start. But either he or someone else gave it a try, because that diaphragm can't be but, you know, maybe just a couple years old. Because, I mean, it looks, aside from being installed, it looks pretty good. So, now that we've kind of verified that we've cleaned out part of the fuel pickup by spraying that carb cleaner in there, hopefully we've gotten some of the boogers out of there. And this doesn't need to be overly tight, but hopefully that'll help us in our quest. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'll flip this around and show you, but the next thing I'll do is we'll pull this jet off on the other side, and we'll make sure that those passages are clear too. Here we go. 1/2 inch. Let's go over the side, just go over that. Leave that alone, because it might be set just right. It sounded like it was running good once it started. Yeah. So there's a little jet. I typically like taking them out. Shouldn't be in there too tight. And that'll screw out. And then at the back of this, there should be 2 little holes that we have to make sure are clear. Now, I might need to kind of fish that out. Give me a second, I'll grab something to poke in there and pull that out. Torch tip cleaners are my go-to. It helps you make sure that you got everything out, plus it'll help you get that pulled out. So just a little jet. I want to make sure it's nice and clean. You can see through it. Oh, you can see it, right? So that's clean. But there's 2 itty-bitty holes back there. I don't know if it's going to be possible for me to show that or not. It's kind of washing it out, isn't it? Let's see. There's one on the left and another little guy on the right. Those both have to be clean. Also, if you look down at the bottom, See how there's a little hole on the bottom? That's got to be clear too. So I like to use torch tip cleaner. To stick them through there, make sure that those passages are nice and clean. You don't have to like file the hole out. You just want to make sure that they're open. Come on now, cooperate with me here. Let's see. Sorry if I'm blocking you. Almost. Straighten it out a little bit. Yeah, I know. I'm in the way. Well, and that could maybe be part of our issue too. It doesn't want me to get in there. All right, I finally got it. So you spray that out good. I went ahead and shot it with carb cleaner. I didn't want to get it all over my phone, but essentially you just try to get lined up on those holes. That doesn't have to be on there super tight, but then just make sure it doesn't spray out back at you. And that was definitely going in there. So that's good. So now I'm gonna get rid of this old gas. Now it's not as bad as I was thinking. It's still kind of yellow, which is good. I don't see tons of sediment down in there. But we're gonna give it a shot anyways. I'll get rid of it and we'll put some new stuff in there. So hopefully we'll be outside next. All right, round 2. Let's see if this goes any better. So choke is on. Ugh. Need to use my other hand. Hold on. Sometimes you got to step back and think, am I going to really go through all this work without checking the simplest thing? You know, like how I turned it off last time. Duh. There we go. Now let's give it a shot. There you go. Oop. To come out a little bit. Let's try that. Okay, we'll choke it again. let me go get some tripods. I'll try running it into some more. All right. There you have it. The snow beast lives again. So, I guess as a recap, that was probably more challenging than it should have been. Because I ended up messing around with that carburetor because I'm an idiot. I've done that to myself more times than I can admit. I thought for sure something was funky, but I think it was fine. So I think it was just the points that were the issue. So, you know, cleaning off that starter clutch and putting that cupped washer on there the right way certainly was worth going in there for. You know, because if the flywheel slips a little bit because there's not enough pressure on it, the timing will be off and it won't run anyways. And it only has to be off by a hair, just a little bit, and it won't run. Or it won't run right, you know. So that was good. I think that was ultimately the issue, because I know for a fact that was pulled, you know, clear down like that when I was trying to start it earlier. I got a new plug. I'm going to change the oil and whatever gas I just threw in there. And that's it. So I'm going to have, what, $5, $10 in this thing? And it's a beast. That snow that we got the other night was super wet and heavy. And this thing just ate ice. Basically, that's what I was throwing. It's the only thing left out on the street. Once you get through that top layer, then it's a little bit more packed in snow. But for the most part, it had to chew through the ice first. So, quite frankly, versus most of the stuff that's new, the 2 stages that are out there for sale, you could spend $400, $500, $600 on one of them, and the snow that I just went through with this would have broke it. You know, one of those new ones. I mean, you're not supposed to hit ice with those. They have those shear bolts and the augers and everything else. And this thing just ripped right through it. It's chain drive. You can see the chain. There's a sprocket and a chain in behind that guard. So probably worth pulling the bottom open and making sure everything's greased up like it should be. But for next to nothing, this is more capable than most things out there. If it can throw what I just did, it can throw anything else. So safety wise, you know, it does at least have these handles, right? So, you know, drive, and here's the auger. But that is wide open. So if anything got stuck in there or you reached your hand down there, boy, that would be a bummer. You'd find out in a hurry that that was not the right thing to do. So overall, I give this thing an A+. This thing is sweet. I have a older snowblower than this, actually. I'll show you quick. It is a 1964 Simplicity Snow Away, I think is what it's called. It's got a 4 horsepower. Same idea. Metal auger. Will throw any kind of snow, bricks, animals, children, adults. It doesn't discriminate. It is ready to chew up anything. But this one's super dangerous. Like, it doesn't have any handles. I mean, you put this thing in forward and the lever to get it, the auger started is right there. You pull that up and this, you just let go of it and it'll just go all by itself. Destroy anything in its path. So this is comparable to that. This has a bigger motor and slightly different auger. You know, that one over there's no holes. It's all 100% full, you know, metal. But this is far safer. So if you see one for sale, probably don't want a whole lot for it. I'd buy it before you go to the Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever you buy your stuff. You know, unless you spend pretty good money, which anymore, most of the new stuff, unless it's commercial grade, is just throwaway. You know, it'll last for 5-6 years, take care of it, and then you'll have to start working on it. And then in about the 10th year, you've probably completely ruined it, and it's time for it to just go away. You know, sometimes you have to spend a lot of time and effort working on it. Not that this wouldn't have some of the same things, but there's less parts, and the metal is super thick. This weighs more than anything probably sold today because the metal's so much thicker. But that's my sales pitch. Find one, buy it, or don't. Buy it for the motor and put the motor on something because they run awesome. But that's all I got for you today. Here in the future, I've got an old Clinton that I'm going to be working on. Snowblower. It's tiny. It doesn't look like it's ever been used, or at least not very much. So I'm excited about that. I'll show you guys that. But hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.